Think the 1950s were all poodle skirts and wholesome family movies? Think again. Beneath that glossy surface, Hollywood was serving up films so wild, so out of bounds, that censors lost sleep and audiences lost their minds. Some of these movies got banned, others sparked riots, and a few changed the rules of the game forever. Ever wondered what it really took to get a movie yanked off screens in the so-called innocent era? Buckle up, you're about to find out. The Wild One, 1953. Picture this. Marlon Brando, leather jacket zipped, astride a roaring motorcycle, eyes daring anyone to stop him. The Wild One didn't just launch biker movies. It sent a jolt of pure anarchy straight through 1950s America. The plot? Brando's Johnny and his gang invade a sleepy town, and all hell breaks loose. It sounds tame by today's standards, but back then, the idea of rebellious youth overrunning authority sent parents and politicians into panic mode. The movie's dialogue was legendary. When asked, "What are you rebelling against?" Brando fired back, "What do you got?" That line alone was enough to ignite a moral firestorm. Towns banned the film outright, and newspapers warned it would corrupt the youth. Brando's anti-hero became a symbol for teenage defiance and sparked a nationwide debate about movies poisoning the next generation. Even the wardrobe, black leather, boots, caps, became forbidden fashion in some places. Lawmakers accused the film of glorifying gangs and encouraging delinquency. Movie critics were split, with some calling it a social disaster, others a raw slice of realism. But here's the kicker. The very outrage that tried to bury The Wild One turned it into a pop culture legend. It's the movie that made rebellion look cool, and in the process, changed how Hollywood portrayed youth forever. Blackboard Jungle, 1955. If you think classrooms are wild now, you've never seen Blackboard Jungle. Before this film, school movies were polite, a little boring, and all about respect. Then along came Glenn Ford as a teacher battling violence, defiance, and total chaos in an urban high school. But it wasn't just the plot that had people sweating, it was the music. This was the first mainstream film to blast rock and roll in a theater. Rock Around the Clock hit like a grenade, launching a wave of rebellion and dance crazes. Suddenly, teenagers in theaters started dancing in the aisles, and in some cities, police had to break up riots. Parents and censors freaked out. Some schools banned students from seeing it, and there were calls to cut the film's dangerous scenes. People claimed the movie was teaching kids to disrespect authority and copy the rough behavior they saw on screen. But here's the twist. The controversy only fueled its popularity. Blackboard Jungle became a hit with teens, made rock and roll the voice of a generation, and pushed Hollywood to start making movies about real issues. If you've ever wondered where the bad teacher wild class trope began, it started here with one movie that turned a classroom into a battleground. Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. James Dean. Red Jacket. Fast cars. Endless trouble. Rebel Without a Cause didn't just make Dean an icon, it shattered every rule about what teenagers were supposed to be on film. Instead of polite, obedient kids, we got lost. Angry teens wrestling with broken families and a world that didn't understand them. The movie hit raw nerves from the first frame. Parents worried it was teaching teens to question everything: school, rules, even their own families. There were brawls, heartbreak, and scenes that left censors sweating. The police were portrayed as powerless. The parents were clueless. Dean's performance was a bolt of lightning. He played Jim Stark with so much real emotion that young people everywhere saw themselves in him. Suddenly, the old Hollywood teen was out, and a new kind of character was in, vulnerable, confused, and desperate for belonging. The backlash? Some theaters banned it, others edited the wildest scenes, and church groups rallied to have it pulled from screens. But Rebel Without a Cause survived, and in the process, invented the idea of the modern troubled teenager on film. Today, it's not just a classic. It's the reason the bad boy is still cool. Baby Doll, 1956. Baby Doll didn't just push the envelope, it shredded it. The poster alone caused a scandal. Carol Baker in a crib, sucking her thumb. Directed by Elia Kazan and written by Tennessee Williams, this Southern Gothic tale centers on a young bride, her much older husband, and their twisted triangle with a rival. The movie's dialogue crackled with tension, the performances dripped with innuendo, and the story, it was all about power, obsession, and mind games played behind closed doors. Before the film even hit theaters, religious groups and censors were in full panic, demanding it be banned for immorality. Some cities pulled it from screens before the opening weekend. The press called it the dirtiest American-made motion picture that has ever been legally exhibited. But moviegoers couldn't stay away. Lines formed around the block, and debates raged in every diner and living room. The controversy didn't just boost ticket sales, it earned the movie 4 Oscar nominations. But more than that, Baby Doll proved that American cinema could tackle taboo subjects head-on, even if it meant starting a firestorm in the process. If you want to know where boundary-pushing Hollywood started, look here. The Moon is Blue, 1953. How can a romantic comedy about a man, a woman, and a slightly awkward night in New York become one of the most controversial movies of the decade? Simple. Make it too honest for 1950s censors. The Moon is Blue poked fun at courtship and dating in a way that was so frank it sent the production code office into a meltdown. The censors refused to give it their seal of approval. Why? The movie dared to use words like virgin, made jokes about relationships, and treated dating with a wink instead of a sermon. In those days, that was enough to get a film banned in entire states. Studio bosses were warned not to release it, but director Otto Preminger went rogue. He put the movie in theaters without approval, daring officials to stop him. Audiences flooded in, loving the humor and honesty, while church groups and city councils called for boycotts. In the end, the film's scandal made it a hit. The Moon is Blue broke the production code's grip and paved the way for more open, modern comedies. Sometimes, all it takes is a single movie to prove that real life is a lot messier and a lot funnier than the rules allow. Payton Place, 1957. Step into Payton Place, and you're stepping into a town with more secrets than a locked diary. When this film hit screens, it was like dropping a match in a powder keg. Adapted from Grace Metalius's best-selling novel, Payton Place rips the mask off small-town America, showing the gossip, ambition, and raw emotion simmering just beneath the surface. People flocked to see it, eager to find out what all the fuss was about. Critics called it scandalous, and some towns actually banned the movie outright. The reason? It tackled everything polite society wanted to sweep under the rug: broken homes, jealousy, and personal struggles that everyone recognized but nobody dared discuss in public. What really made Payton Place controversial wasn't just its content, but its attitude. It dared to say that the so-called perfect American town was anything but. Church groups protested, claiming the film would destroy the moral fiber of youth, and school boards warned parents to keep their kids away. Here's the real kicker. Payton Place went on to become a massive box office hit, earned 9 Oscar nominations, and paved the way for TV shows about complicated small-town life. It proved that when you shine a light on society's secrets, people can't look away, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Kiss Me Deadly, 1955. Want a crime thriller that plays by nobody's rules? Meet Kiss Me Deadly, the film that practically gave the middle finger to every old-school detective movie. This was the 1950s ultimate pulp nightmare, faster, meaner, and more paranoid than anything that came before. The story follows Private Eye Mike Hammer as he chases down a mysterious suitcase that turns out to be the deadliest MacGuffin in film noir history. The violence? Shocking for its time. The tone? Acidic, relentless, and totally amoral. By the finale, audiences weren't just on edge, they were genuinely disturbed. Censors tried to rein in the movie's wild streak, but it was no use. Critics at the time called it subversive and dangerous, accusing director Robert Aldrich of corrupting public morals. The film was even altered in some regions to soften the ending, but its impact couldn't be erased. What's wild is that Kiss Me Deadly didn't just upset the censors, it inspired a generation of filmmakers. From its frantic pace to its surreal, apocalyptic climax, this movie showed that film noir could be just as unhinged as real life. Today, it's a cult classic, and its shadow looms over every gritty detective story that came after. The Man with the Golden Arm, 1955. Frank Sinatra playing a troubled jazz musician in 1955 was already a big deal. But The Man with the Golden Arm pulled off something even bolder. It dared to show addiction on screen in a way nobody had ever seen before. Censors tried to block its release. They claimed it was too graphic, too realistic, and that showing the struggles of addiction would undermine public decency. But director Otto Preminger, never one to back down from a fight, pushed the film into theaters without official approval. Audiences were stunned. Sinatra's performance as Frankie Machine was raw and electric, and the film's unflinching honesty shocked critics and moviegoers alike. It sparked furious debates across the country. Some praised its courage, while others demanded it be banned. Here's what really set this film apart. Instead of giving the audience a tidy, moral lesson, The Man with the Golden Arm forced them to confront a tough reality. It cracked open a door Hollywood had kept firmly shut, and in doing so, helped set the stage for the new realism of the 1960s. The film proved movies could handle tough subjects and still pack theaters. Giant, 1956. At first glance, Giant looks like another big, sweeping epic about Texas oil and cattle barons. But peel back the surface, and you've got a powder keg of controversy. Starring Rock Hudson, Elizabeth Taylor, and James Dean, Giant tackles class conflict, power, and most of all, the realities of prejudice in the American Southwest. What set audiences off was the film's bold portrayal of discrimination against Mexican Americans, a subject Hollywood almost never touched at the time. Some critics called the movie divisive. Certain towns refused to show it, and others demanded scenes be cut. But Giant refused to sugarcoat the truth. Instead, it forced audiences to face uncomfortable realities about how people treated each other. The movie sparked debates in living rooms and newspaper columns across the country. James Dean's final performance brought even more attention, his tragic death adding a layer of myth to the film's legacy. In the end, Giant smashed box office records and scored 9 Academy Award nominations. More importantly, it used the weight of its stardom to kick open the doors for movies that dared to tackle the toughest social issues, no matter how much heat it took. Touch of Evil, 1958. You want boundary pushing? Orson Welles' Touch of Evil is a masterclass in breaking all the rules. Set on the seedy American-Mexican border, the movie throws you into a shadowy world of crooked cops, dangerous secrets, and impossible choices. What made Touch of Evil so explosive wasn't just its story, but the way it was filmed. Welles used bizarre camera angles, long tracking shots, and jarring edits to keep audiences off balance. Hollywood had never seen anything like it. The opening shot alone, one long, unbroken take, became legendary. The film's portrayal of corruption and lawlessness was so intense, some censors wanted it banned. Studios hacked up Welles's original cut, fearing it would be too much for audiences. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it a mess, others called it genius. Over time, Touch of Evil found its audience. Directors from Martin Scorsese to Quentin Tarantino have called it a huge influence. What started as a studio nightmare became a film noir classic, celebrated for daring to go where others wouldn't. This is the movie that proved a true original can survive, even if it has to fight its way back from the cutting room floor. A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951. When Marlon Brando yelled, "Stella," on a hot, crowded New Orleans street, Hollywood would never be the same. A Streetcar Named Desire took Tennessee Williams' Broadway hit and cranked the raw emotion up to 11. The result? Critics were stunned, censors were rattled, and moviegoers were mesmerized. The story dives deep into mental instability, broken dreams, and unfiltered family drama. Vivien Leigh's performance as the fragile Blanche Dubois was haunting, while Brando's raw charisma left audiences breathless. But it wasn't just the acting that shook things up. The movie's intensity, language, and bold exploration of forbidden themes got the censors' scissors working overtime. The production code forced major changes, whole scenes reworked, dialogue scrubbed, tension dialed down. Even with the edits, the film felt electric and dangerous. In some cities, local boards banned the movie outright, claiming it was immoral and unsuitable for public viewing. But all the controversy couldn't keep viewers away. A Streetcar named Desire cleaned up at the Oscars, winning 4 major awards and changing Hollywood forever. It taught studios that controversy could sell tickets, and that great storytelling was sometimes at its best when it made people squirm. The Big Heat, 1953. If you want proof that film noir could get truly brutal, The Big Heat delivers in spades. Glenn Ford stars as a straight-arrow cop on a collision course with a city's criminal underworld. But this isn't just another cops and robbers story. This one shocked 1950s audiences with its sheer intensity and willingness to cross lines. There's a moment everyone remembers. Gloria Graham's character gets scalded with hot coffee, a scene so intense and unexpected that it sent some viewers running for the exits. The violence was unlike anything moviegoers had seen before, and the moral ambiguity of the plot made critics uneasy. Censors demanded changes, but director Fritz Lang pushed back. He wanted to show how violence and corruption infect even the good guys. The movie didn't offer easy answers or safe resolutions. It just stared into the darkness and dared you to look away. Some theaters cut the roughest scenes or refused to screen the film entirely. Still, The Big Heat became a cult sensation, inspiring countless thrillers and hard-edged detective movies. It showed the world that Hollywood noir could be just as tough and just as controversial as anything from Europe. Anatomy of a Murder, 1959. If you think legal dramas are all stuffy speeches and dramatic objections, Anatomy of a Murder will catch you off guard. This Otto Preminger masterpiece tossed aside old taboos and took on the justice system with a cold, analytical eye. The film was groundbreaking for showing a trial as it really is, messy, uncomfortable, and loaded with moral gray areas. James Stewart plays a small-town lawyer defending a soldier accused of murder, and the courtroom scenes pull no punches. The dialogue was so frank that the censors almost blocked the film entirely. For the first time, mainstream American audiences heard honest talk about tough subjects. The use of real legal language and raw testimony rattled censors and some moviegoers, leading to bans in certain cities and a wave of controversy in the press. But Anatomy of a Murder didn't back down. It was a massive hit, won awards, and influenced generations of courtroom dramas. By refusing to sugarcoat the truth, the film dragged Hollywood into a new era, one where grown-up themes could be explored without apology, even when the heat was on. Picnic, 1955. You wouldn't think a movie about a small-town picnic could stir up a firestorm, but Picnic managed exactly that. Set in a quiet Kansas town, the story follows William Holden's charming drifter as he upends the lives of everyone around him, especially the women. The film's heat comes from what it doesn't show as much as what it does. The longing glances, the dancing, and the sense that every polite smile hides a volcano of emotion. These moments made the censors squirm. Picnic dared to say that beneath the sunny surface of American life, desire and discontent were bubbling up, just waiting to explode. Conservative critics blasted the movie as too suggestive, and some towns tried to keep it out of local theaters. Despite the outrage, the film became a runaway success, earning 6 Academy Award nominations and drawing crowds nationwide. In the end, Picnic proved that sometimes the most shocking movies aren't the ones with violence or outlandish stunts. They're the ones that hold up a mirror and show us what's really simmering underneath the American dream. The Defiant Ones, 1958. Imagine a movie in the 1950s that put 2 men, one black, one white, on the run, chained together, forced to trust each other or die trying. The Defiant Ones was bold, blunt, and way ahead of its time. Sidney Poitier and Tony Curtis star as escaped prisoners whose journey through the Deep South exposes every ugly truth about bigotry and fear. Some audiences weren't ready for it. In certain areas, theaters refused to show the film, and advertisers pulled support, worried about backlash. What really set The Defiant Ones apart was its refusal to preach. Instead, it showed real struggle, real anger, and a hope for understanding that felt dangerous in its honesty. The story didn't offer easy answers, but it did push people to question their own assumptions, something that made plenty of folks uncomfortable. Despite the obstacles, The Defiant Ones became a hit and won Academy Awards. More importantly, it opened the door for Hollywood to start talking about race and justice in a real way. This was more than just a movie. It was a wake-up call, and its controversy changed American cinema forever. So, there you have it. The 15 movies that set fire to the rules and rewrote what Hollywood could get away with in the 1950s. Which one shocked you most? Did any make you want to argue with the censors, or maybe just cheer for the chaos? Drop your thoughts below. Hit subscribe for more untold stories, and share this with anyone who thinks the 50s were all innocence and good manners. Remember, controversy never really goes out of style. Which era should we tackle next?